What it do, what it do? It's your boy Andre Spruill, and you are tuning in to Middle of the Fence podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, whether you're listening, watching, or both. As I like to say, time is the most valuable thing on this earth because we can spend it, but can't make it back. So as always, thank you for your time. And today's episode is titled Protectors or Predators? Police Brutality Across the Fence. And so this episode is going to look at police brutality and how it's often framed as black versus white, but the story is way more complex. So let's begin where these issues hit the hardest, the tough terrain. Because in neighborhoods like this, police aren't just an occasional presence, they're a daily reality. So over policing, that is the main factor that is of how police show up differently on the tough terrain side compared to the Affluent Acres side. And urban communities are more heavily policed, creating more frequent and hostile interactions. And the best analogy that I can use for this, it's like the security at the airport, right? Some people go through the regular line, quick scan, keep their shoes on, maybe even go through with a cup of coffee, and they're good. But in urban communities, it's the full TSA check every single time. Shoes off, belt off, body scan, bag check, and you still get pulled to the side. Same system, two completely different experiences. And with the over policing, another aspect that people don't think of unless you've lived it is the fact that you hear police sirens every single day of your life. And this is something that I didn't really realize until I finally got out of the tough terrain environment when I moved to where I'm currently living, which is definitely more of a suburban town. And I moved to that suburban area about end of 2020. And so from time I was born, 1996 to 2020, I, grew up in a urban environment and heard police sirens every single day. And to the point where I just became numb to it, but I didn't realize the extent of it until I actually got out of that environment. So that's another aspect of it as well. And another major issue that comes about because of how police show up on the tough terrain side is generational trauma. And police brutality reinforces mistrust in the justice system and creates cycles of fear and resentment. And this is something that if you are a person of color or are good friends with someone or people of color, then you understand. And I spoke about it in episode 12 with my brother, so please be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And we discussed the fears that come about whenever we get pulled over or there's a police officer that drives by or is driving behind us, because according to mappingpoliceviolence.org, black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. And when I say all this, I don't want the imagery to be, oh, Dre is only talking about white officers and how they treat black people. No. This is, sometimes black officers enforce the same systemic biases because they are part of a larger institution rooted in control. So I'm talking about the police force as a whole. And this is from a 2019 Stanford University study. So Stanford University researchers analyzed nearly 100 million traffic stops across more than 50 states and city police departments from 2011 to 2018. They found that black drivers were stopped at a 43% higher rate than white drivers. In the study, the researchers applied the quote-unquote veil of darkness theory, where the veil of darkness test found that black drivers were a smaller portion of the drivers who were stopped after dark compared to during daylight, which suggested discrimination against black drivers. Now, cross the fence into Affluent Acres, and the dynamic shifts completely. Here, police show up as protectors, not threats, and that challenges everything about how they're perceived. So, obviously, how they show up on the tough terrain versus the Affluent Acres is just different. You can tell just by how they're perceived on both sides of the fence and how drastically different it is. And like I just mentioned, suburban or wealthier areas see police as protectors and not predators. And this is from a May 2021 study titled Arrest Trends, Suburban Police Are Driving the Use of Arrests. Data from Vera's Arrest Trends tool reveals precipitous declines in arrest rates since the mid-1990s nationwide. This is a promising finding, but arrest rates remain extremely high. Moreover, the decline in arrest rates has not equally benefited all communities, racial groups, and age groups, creating a false picture of nationwide progress. And this is mentioned because one thing that I want to highlight to my audience is the fact that when data and figures are presented to anyone, we have to keep in mind of how true they are. And I'm not saying that everything out there is fake, guys. You know, credible sources matter, obviously, but when there's certain factors involved when data is released, especially when factors are related to race and economic background, you got to look at the data with, by questioning it and just digging deeper and not just seeing it as face value and just keep it pushing. And like I said, when there's certain topics involved with that, then that's when it's like, gotta dig deeper there. And another aspect of police and how they show up on the Affluent Acres is the privilege of perception. So white or affluent kids may get warnings or parental calls instead of arrests. And I felt like a suburban dude, quoting Kodak Black there.
I don't stay in the projects anymore. I'm not a project baby anymore. I'm a suburbs kid. I'm a suburban. I'm a suburban dude.
That when I got my gold card from my father, who works in the police force, and whenever I got pulled over because I was going 10 over in the residential, sometimes hitting close to 90 on the highway, anytime I pulled that gold card out, I just automatically knew, okay, I was going to be let off with a warning, and I was good. And it made me think, like, is this the feeling that kids that grew up in a more suburban area, is this how they feel without even having that? Where they know, like, hey, if I do something, I can, get by with a warning, or if I do get a ticket, it's not going to be such a major issue because we're able to pay it and it's not going to be on my record and things like that. And it really just makes you think. And it's a fresh reminder that kids of color growing up don't have that same ability to be able to do that. It's more so, okay, as a person of color, you have to play by the rules and follow it as best as you can. You have to be perfect. And that's something that was instilled in me from both sides of my family, my black side of the family and my Argentinian side of the family, reminding me that, when you are involved with a police officer, they're not going to know that you went to these schools, that you graduated college and all that. They're just going to see your skin color, and that's enough to, you can be at the wrong place, wrong time, and one mistake can literally ruin the rest of your life. And another aspect of policing with Affluent Acres is the dual reality that when people from the Affluent Acres side hear about brutality, they often see it as distant until it touches someone close to them. And the overarching theme with that point of not really caring about it until it happens to someone close to you is the fact that that's a problem that we have as a society, I feel. Whether you grew up on the Affluent Acre side, tough terrain, a whole different part of the world, it doesn't matter. The lack of empathy that we have towards others because whatever is being done is not affecting you directly or someone that you care about directly. And that's something that can be improved all around. And the example that I think of in this current moment is obviously with what's going on with Gaza, Palestine, and Israel. That's something that, like what's going on over there, regardless of where you stand on that, it doesn't affect you. You're still able to wake up, go about your day, go to work, see your family, go to sleep, repeat, and you're fine. But again, it's just a matter of you don't have to wait for something to happen to you or someone that you care about to actually care about an issue that affects a large group of people as a whole. And this is where living in the middle becomes eye-opening. I've seen both sides, how fear of the police is ingrained in one community and how trust is almost assumed in the other. But here's the thing. The uniform itself doesn't erase bias, whether the badge is worn by a black officer or a white officer. The system was built on foundations that still see people of color as a threat. To really understand why this matters today, we have to step back and look at the roots of policing and what history tells us about how these patterns started off and why they persist. So before I get into this doesn't mean that I'm anti-police and I'm not of the belief that we should be a lawless society with no officers so we can run wild and purge every single day. I mean, if you've seen that movie, The Purge, I mean, that's a great illustration of that. But obviously, how people of color are perceived is the main course of it because that's how it started. Because police force started off as slave patrol in the 18th century in southern states. And that is what was at the precipice of police force starting in general. And also, too, in 2006, a 2006 FBI report detailed the threats posed by white supremacists infiltrating all levels of law enforcement and notes that one of the major worries about such infiltration is compromised intelligence. And I have the link in the description for the report. So the underlying theme with police, regardless of how you view them, is that it stemmed from racism in the 18th century, and then as soon ago as 2006, which is less than 20 years ago. Next year is 2026, so literally 20 years. That FBI report came out, and was anything done about that? Your answer may be dependent on where you stand on this issue, but if I'm being honest, probably not. And it's left an impact from 2006 up until now. And how is that impact going to look in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years and beyond? Guess we'll have to wait and see. But just like how we have discussed that it's about connecting both sides of the fence, so one day we can all see eye to eye and operate as an ideal society. We all should be able to see officers the same. I would love to see a world where how they're viewed on the Affluent Acre side is how they're viewed on the tough terrain side. But because of the dynamics and the historical context and how things are set up is just not happening. And will it ever happen? Time will tell, to say the least. And the question that I pose to the audience is, have you ever seen the difference in how police treated you or someone you know, depending on where you were? Again, have you ever seen the difference in how police treated you or someone you know, depending on where you were? And thank you guys for tuning into this episode. This one was a lot more of a serious note, but I just wanted to lay the basis and foundation for it, because in the future, would love to have a police officer or someone that works in that field so we can sit down and have a conversation to just really air everything out in a respectful and healthy way. And if you like this episode, please be sure to continue checking us out on your favorite podcast streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're over there, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and comment and follow so we can continue growing this middle of the fence family. And if you're on YouTube, it's at Andre Spruill on YouTube, and you'll be able to see the full-length episodes as well as clips from previous episodes. And if you're on YouTube, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be the first to be notified when the latest episode drops. And as always, no matter what side of the fence you grew up on, we're all more alike than we think. My name is Andre Spruill. Catch you guys next time.